Hello, hello, hello. That did seem to work. Hello, everyone. Hello, my name is Fiona. I use she, her pronouns, and this is Too Long Didn't Read Tabletop RPG. Let me know if the sound is okay. So I might have done some fiddling yesterday. I've got a bit of a new mic setup going on. I was just testing things out, and we will see if it actually works. Who is messaging me right now? It's just Instagram to tell me my countdown has finished. Thank you, Instagram. Hope you're doing well, everyone. This is, I should go with the intro, shouldn't I? This is a tabletop RPG stream whereby we look at an RPG that I've had has been gathering dust in the Google Drive of Doom or on one of my shelves, and I go through it and spend about an hour and 2 hours at most just going through, see what I like about it, would I ever run it for my podcast, and anything in terms of anything I think of an improvements or anything that just comes to mind as I'm reading it, because I always am a big fan of reading RPGs. Even if you don't get to play them, I think that's one of the biggest shames, is that there's not a big enough celebration about just reading about game design. Whether you're a game designer yourself, or you're someone that uses RPGs for, say, works with clients, for example, or maybe even just like thinking about your own games at home. If you're just using just D&D, etc., it's nice to be able to read about other systems and go, oh, that's really cool, I want to add it to my system. So that's what the reason that this has come about. But also it means I have to speak aloud and do awful pronunciations and stuff. But I hope you're doing well. Yeah, so I've done a bit of a change on the mic setup. I don't know if it's any better or worse. We'll find out. Music is a teeny bit too loud for me, so I'm just going to turn that down for me. There we go. Oh, a little bit better. But also, I've switched around my OBS layout. This is, I know, threading content, I know, but I've changed it around, and now I'm like, oh, I don't like it. I've changed things, and I don't like it. But yeah, I hope you're doing well. I had a very good couple of days since I was last doing one of these streams. I've edited an episode that's going out for Sunday. That's one thing I was meant to do. I also, what was the other thing I did? Played a lot of Blood on the Clock Tower yesterday, and managed to do okay. I've mentioned it in several episodes for both Where and DM's Book Club recently, but I really love Blood on the Clock Tower. I'm just not very good at it, except I can do it online because I can make notes, and I can be like, I think so and so is this person and this person and this person, and then I'm like, oh, I'm like stunned when I get it right. When I'm actually in person, absolutely can't remember anything about it. So I hope you're doing well. I appreciate there is a bit of a white glare. It's because I'm looking at the website we're going to look onto today about this RPG. But yes, I hope you are doing well. Just make sure Sorry, I had a stray bobble that was on my wrist. It hurt me. I don't know if you can see. There's a little bit of a line. Ugh. Anyway, that's annoying, but hey, welcome to the stream. So today, friends, we are looking at the random number generator came up with Worldwide Wrestling RPG by I can't even read the website now. NDP Design. This was designed. The game was designed, written by Nathan D. Oh gosh, I had it before. Heleta. And it is, of course, about wrestling, and it uses Powered by the Apocalypse system, which we featured a number of times upon this channel. So let's get away from Big Fiona screen. We're going to go straight into the website. Whoop, there we go. Which is so bright. And I've zoomed out a little bit because I just wanted to show this incredible second edition. So yes, today we're looking at the second edition. You can get the first edition of this game still, but we're going to look at the second edition because that's the one that's came out most recently. And I really love this. The cover for the second edition, much more so than the first one, which I'm sure if I go down there. Nope, of course it's not there. But there you go. So let's dive in. I'm going to zoom in a little bit, enhance, so we can read some of the text. I just wanted to show you that image. Moving it over there. So welcome to. Oh god, it's still quite tiny, isn't it? Oh. Enhance. There we go. Oh, so much better. My eyes aren't dying inside. So the Worldwide Wrestling RPG was originally published in 2015, and it's been amazing to hear all the amazing stories from players as they've clashed in the ring, playing out incredible feats and explored the reaches of parts unknown. Worldwide Wrestling 2nd Edition combines all the material from the original, so we're not going to miss out by not looking at the first one, and also the International Incident Supplement. So yes, there's a second supplement that's sort of added to it in between the first and second edition, and then the second edition just puts it all together as one streamlined, updated game that supports both quickly getting into the action and long-term dynamic exploration of promotion around the wrestlers. So yes, as if you couldn't tell, this is an RPG all about wrestling. I wonder if there's an actual... There you go, it's over here. I've moved it round. Tell you what I will do, I'm going to go over to itch. That's where we'll read it there. So you can get it, you can see that, you can get it on itch and Drive for RPG. This version, the second edition, if you're just buying it straight off, it's £15 or $15, which is not bad. I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think that's bad at all. So what's that, about £13? But if you are hardship or you've got the first edition, you can download. Oh no, I don't want to buy it. I've got my version. Hang on, where can I? Just why we should have done this beforehand. There we go. I'm gonna go over to drive through. That'll make things a little bit easier. But yeah, if you are at a time of hardship and or financial hardship, or you've got the first edition and you want the second edition, then you can actually do that on it. You can actually change about. Oh, come on, internet! God, it's a bit slow today, isn't it? Oh, we've even got the old drive-through as well. So there we go. Oh, I've got it for some reason. I've got it for £7. That's interesting. Anyway, it's because it's GM's day at Drive-Through RPG. That's why. Interesting. Thing to note as well. Just put it over there. Platinum bestseller, so you know it must be good. It's an incredibly popular game. If you type in Worldwide Wrestling Second Edition RPG, there's so many actual players, and what I love about it is people getting very excited when they're playing this game, and it really does allow. If you watch even just a couple of minutes of one, it really allows for creativity and people to embody really big characters, which is what you see in wrestling all the time. So let us. What on earth has happened there? Sorry. OBS was like, "Here, do you want some options?" And I was like, "No, I'm streaming OBS, please." It's gosh darn it. Let's. Can you guys see that? No, I'm just gonna. He's gonna have to believe me. Maybe I'll go on to the itch version. Let's go to itch. Let's just go. And then you can also get some free downloads as well. Look, there's some playtest editions as well, so that's pretty good. I'm just gonna go to itch. You can tell it's been a bit of a day if I'm just like, oh no. Right, that's it. World Wide Wrestling. Oh, I can't spell for days. Oh, hello, Super Dylan. Hello. How are you doing, my friend? You've come at just the right time. You can see me having technical difficulties, but we are here looking at, excuse me, Worldwide Wrestling Second Edition. I don't know if you've played this yourself. I certainly haven't, but I'm very keen to play it at some point because I just like the concept sounds great. Powered by the Apocalypse, tick. And yeah, it seems like really interesting. And also it has this stuff about the second edition. But I hope you're doing well, my friend. Let me know how my audio is, by the way, because I have changed it somewhat. And it's always very difficult to know if it's any good. As long as I'm coming over clearly, then that should be fine. But I hope you're doing well, my friend. All right, let's read. So yeah, as I said, this is the itch page for it. So you can get the. It is $15 if you just want to buy the second edition. But if you've already purchased the first edition, or if you're experiencing financial hardship, it's available for $7. It's more of an honor system though if you do that. And I think it's absolutely completely worth the $15 as well because you get so much into it and it's been absolutely refined. And it certainly has that second, the supplement in it, the International Incident supplement that came out just after the first edition. Anyway, all that out of the way, let's go and read the blurb, shall we? So, welcome to the Worldwide Wrestling Second Edition. This award-winning game of professional wrestling action enables you to create your own professional wrestling franchise through play, showcasing satisfying and surprising storylines. It's about feuds, championships, betrayal, and righteous victory. It's about the clash of good and evil on the grandest stage. It's about whether you've got what it takes. And, in the end, it's about what the audience thinks of your efforts. Oh, love it. Originally published in 2015. The second edition brings in material from everything released for the original game, refines the core gameplay experience based on years of play, and includes new rules for supporting long-term play and going outside of the ring. Some guest essays, or we'd love some good guest essays, guidance for narrating wrestling matches. Yes, that's a very exciting thing, this idea that the person that's not in play is almost like the announcer and gets to describe certain things. It's really good. Alright, about this game. So, in Worldwide Wrestling, the creative, the GM's role, first of all, tick for terminology there, we love that, sets up the show, orders the card, and books the matches ahead of time. The players choose archetypal pro wrestling gimmicks like the Monster, the Veteran, the Luchador, and so on as the base for their character. Wrestlers play through what the creative has planned, but they have the ability and the autonomy to pursue their own feuds, set up their own matches, and swerve the creative's booking. Ooh, fun. Creative's job is to make it look like it was planned all along. Characters are the wrestler as professional. This means you play out both their on-screen costume persona and their backstage efforts to maintain and progress their careers, and the ways the two affect each other. Through play focused equally on the action in the squared circle and the events behind the scenes, you'll discover who has what it takes to become a wrestling legend. Excellent, excellent. So as I just said earlier, this is a powered by the Apocalypse system, so that is 2d6 plus a stat, and that resolves all the iconic moves here. So we've got some examples here of like working the audience, cutting a promo, and in the ring wrestling. Just have one move to cover that. That makes sense. The player is mostly conversational. This is what we said about Powered by the Apocalypse games. A lot of the time, you're just talking things through, and it's only when you think, "Ooh, I've done something, I've triggered something." It's like when we talked about Godkiller a few days ago. 80% of the moves you're like, "Oh, I think I've triggered a move." It's that sort of like conversational style about it. Here, I think it'd be a bit more clear cut, perhaps, when you've triggered a move or not, and you'd probably want to be triggering moves a lot more in this game. That's just the feeling I get, anyway. The gimmicks are broad templates customized by the player to suit their wrestling character. So I guess the gimmicks must be that archetype, that their playbooks, I'm guessing. And they're the broad template, and the character advance over time by working matches with their biggest rivals, getting over with the audience, and gaining championships. Advancement comes in the form of raising stats, gaining valets or managers, gaining custom moves and maneuvers, and changing gimmick to evolve the character over time and more. Exactly. I'm just going to quickly look at some of these game features. So instantly I can see there it says supports big and small groups. Nice. I guess that means if you've got a small group, you can change characters, or you can be several different wrestlers. But here's an interesting one. Irregular attendance and drop-in guest stars and one-shot play. So I love the idea. You got somebody in town, or maybe you have a partner who doesn't really play role-playing games. This is like perfect scenario for them, that you create a game for them, or create like an option for them to be part of a longer campaign by just having a one-off drop-in thing. And it doesn't matter about what the story is, because every time you play this, it is a round of matches. It's an evening of fighting, isn't it? Or wrestling, sorry, not fighting. What have we got? We've got quick character generation, which is always a big tick. Play a single wrestling show in 2 hours, and then link shows together on an ongoing season of play, treating the promotion as a character in itself. Oh, I love that. I love anything to do with like having the setting being its own character, having its that it informs the player as much, and it has an impact on the player as much as the NPCs and characters do. Excuse me. In-ring action system channels your descriptive creativity and makes engaging and entertaining matches. Okay. I did not bring enough water. Rules support building and maintaining feuds, getting over, gaining more fans, changing gimmicks over time, building tag teams and stables, moving behind the scenes, and much, much more. I do know this, and I'm sure all of you out there are also massive wrestling fans. I mean, look at me. I'm clearly quite a big wrestling fan. I know that some of the essays go into more detailed descriptions about what terminology is used and what certain like concepts come into it. So, you think of kayfabe and heel and baby, those sort of like terms that come up sometimes. So I'm a big fan of games that try and like, if you're introducing someone to that world for the first time, they have like a pronunciation guide, or they have like a list of terminology that you can give to your players. and it explains it quite well. So I seem to remember that a little bit from when I read through the first edition, and I really, really appreciated that. We've got 9 helpful short essays on professional wrestling, roleplay, and how the two interact, which is brilliant. Again, I don't know if we will look at those particularly today. We're here to focus on the main mechanic. And we've got digital bundle, screen-ready PDF, and ebook, nice, and 2 text formats for screen readers, and printable gimmick sheets as well. Yes, because I've got the gimmick and the reference sheets ready, so we can look at that as we go. Super duper. All right, with all that, we can get away the incredibly bright Chrome browser. And relax. So, let's zoom out a little bit. We have nice cup of tea. So this whole RPG is roughly 260 pages. Obviously, we're not going to go through all of them today, but it's just good to know that this covers quite a lot. We're not looking at a quick start. Where it's getting us ready to play this full system. And the other thing I'd say, we'll get onto when we look at the table of contents. They have color coded the table of contents about like what chapters are important in terms of like if you're just starting. Here's the ones in green. Read those ones. Here's some optional rules. They're in purple. They're in blue. Sorry. I really like that as a visual thing to be like, look at these ones. Again, just maybe need to check that for color blindness, perhaps. But there's also text as well to say like, oh, this is for beginners, or you want to get straight into it, do this, or here's some more guidance on how to run the game as a creative, for example. All right, let's dive in. Oh, hey, Chinvigil. Oh, that is some good color coding. Yes. Oh, thank you for joining, my friend. I hope you're doing well. Yes. I can show. I'll just go and do that right now. I shall show you. So yes, it's second edition, NDP design, and then all the wonderful credits there, which is good. And also, what I do love, I always mention this when we come up, gives the sort of also the credit to where the actual system is. So we've got Powered by the Apocalypse by D. Vincent Baker and Meg A. Baker. And we've also got Simple World by Avery Alder. Actually, I don't think I've checked out Simple World. I've checked out a number of their other systems, obviously, because they're so influential in the RPG world. I actually don't know Simple World that well, so I shall go check that out afterwards. But obviously, Powered by the Apocalypse by the Baker. I was going to say, the Meg A's, the bakers of the RPG world. There's some acknowledgements there. Again, we'll read those in our own time. But yeah, here's the color coordination I wanted to talk about. So we see here these first 3 chapters about the game, how to play the game, the first episode. Here you go. It says here, overview and basic rules for playing out a first episode of Worldwide Wrestling. And these are like, here's the ones you need to read, like first. Like obviously, you know, it makes sense to me read them in chronological order, perhaps. But I just quite like that. That's color coded. The blue rules here. So we've got making the roster, moves, wrestling, how to play your wrestler, how to be the creative. These are just the general rules for playing Worldwide Wrestling in detail, and everything you would need for a full season of play. So if you're doing one of those longer campaigns, that's really good on that front. I'm hoping, I want to at least do these first 3 chapters today. Like I said, this is like over 260 pages, so we might not go through everything. I'd like to at least get through these and maybe have a quick look at the gimmicks and fundamentals and stuff. I think the moves we've covered a few times before in different Powered by the Apocalypse games, this idea of there's a trigger, and then you roll 2d6 plus your stats. And maybe we'll do some wrestling. Again, I'm trying to keep my stuff on. Hey, Fjord Chaos, how are you doing, my friend? How are you doing? Hope work's been alright and everything like that. You let me know how my audio is, guys, by the way. I've changed a few things around, so I don't know if anything of it sounds good. So we'll see. Anyway, so like I said, so the blue rules are like general rules that are in a bit more detail. And we have these green rules, which are optional rules. We've got building your promotion, which that was talking about like that idea of like this is like a creative thing in a sense of this is the setting, perhaps, and maybe those TV promotions, perhaps. Going beyond the ring, the road, the worlds of wrestling. These are the essays, I'm guessing, on this a little bit. So, audio sounds good. Thank you, Fueled Chaos. I very much appreciate it. And then the promotions as well. So we've got maybe these are examples of things you could use. So we've got like moat wrestling, the ninth circle of wrestling. I love that. What the fuck wrestling? Prom night. Oh, so maybe they're kind of themed nights, perhaps. Oh, I like that. And then we have gimmicks and move quick references in pink. So from what we were thinking of, like the basics and the moves and stuff like that, the gimmicks, we think that's the sort of like the archetypes, the sort of playbooks. Again, this was just looking at it, and then the moves a little bit in more detail as well. So we've got basic moves, mythic moves, roll moves, in-ring moves, match stipulation moves, specialist moves, audio moves, and of course some, excuse me, glossary of terms and concepts. Always good to have a glossary of terms and concepts. And here's the original. This sort of big piece here. This was on the original cover of the first edition as well. Absolutely cracking. I love how with the movement of the chair, it feels very much like you could obviously you can see it in motion, and you could just feel that impact, like oh, ow, so to speak. But yeah, tag yourself. Who do you think? Who's who in this picture? I'll tell you who I am. This guy. Just I think I'd like to be this person going, what the hell's going on? But these are all my players just struggling and curse of Strahd now. Oh dear, oh dear. Right, let's go into about the game, shall we? So welcome to the world of Worldwide Wrestling, the second edition. Just see I might go in a little bit more. Just as the sweet science of professional wrestling continues to adapt to a changing world, Worldwide Wrestling has evolved with the benefit of over 5 years of magnificent stories and epic feuds. This edition incorporates player experiences over the years into a consolidation of all the materials released since the original publication in 2015. Revisiting a game is a different experience than creating it. For Worldwide Wrestling, it involves not only looking at the game as a set of systems to edit and optimize, but also examining my relationship with professional wrestling and what inspired me to make a game about it in the first place. Oh, I see. So this is almost like not a prologue, but yeah, it's an introduction by the designer. That's awesome. The pro wrestling landscape has changed a lot whilst this game has been out, as has my engagement with the wrestling fandom. As the consensual hallucination of kayfabe evaporated in the always-on social media era, I find that both the highs and lows of pro wrestling are more starkly exposed than ever. I remember during the pandemic when they used to have like boxing matches and I don't know about wrestling per se, but like I used to watch like a little bit of like mixed martial arts fighting, and they had that weird island in Dubai where they just fly the fighters in, but it was like dead silent, no audiences, no nothing, and it just looked like some sort of like some sort of drama, some sort of play, like like a Waiting for Godot, but with fighting. As I write this in 2020, so yeah, it's even like it's been 9 years since the original came out, and there's obviously 4 years since this one came out. Professional wrestlers are the most athletic they've ever been. Turn on any television show or go to any live event, and you'll see breathtaking maneuvers and incredible sequences in the ring, which would have been unimaginable 20 years ago. The current generation pushes the limit of what can be done in amazing ways. However, the world's biggest wrestling company is very much a big business rather than just a promotion, one which makes unconscionable, I can't even say that word, but non-ethical and unethical decisions about where to perform and what to pay lip service to in the name of market dominance. Individual wrestlers build incredible characters that reflect the concerns of our time, leaning into the dissolution of the barriers between performer and character to great effect. In the turbulence of this artistic moment, local wrestling cultures struggle to keep abusive members out of their community. Wow. Well, I can see there's a little thing that says pandemic age there. We'll come in that in a second. None of that means that professional wrestling is any less powerful an art form than it's ever been. Wrestling continues to have the power to tell pure human stories on a grand stage in a way no other medium can. In some ways, as the worst real-world behavior is exposed, it highlights the potential of wrestling to be so much greater. The power of a game like this is that every player and group can use it to emphasize and explore what you find most compelling about wrestling. I like that. Really good, isn't it? My goal with second edition has been to smooth the path towards playing your wrestling truth. Material from the International Incident Supplement and various digital extras are now integrated with the core rules, making it easier to bring anything from specialist roles on the roster to life on the road to your table. One of my favourite things about Worldwide Wrestling is how players who are into real-world wrestling have found it easy to play and enjoy. Very true. See this. Between when I started to write this introduction and the publication of this book, the COVID-19 pandemic erupted and changed everything, including, of course, the place, the function, and the wisdom of live events. Televised weekly wrestling shows with no live audience felt just as strange to me now as when they started. Even as freedom from the live crowd has created opportunities for companies to experiment with more cinematic approaches to big matches and storyline. However, this period has thrown into stark relief how critical the audience is to what I find most fun and compelling about professional wrestling. Worldwide Wrestling assumes that your episodes are done in front of a live audience as default, but if you're interested in playing shows without crowds, check out empty arenas and empty arena matches. Ooh, how cool is that? That's really cool that you can actually reflect that this one time that we didn't have audiences for live events. Awesome. All right. Many revisions are aimed at giving even more support to the wrestling curious in ways that also aid quick pickup games, all without sacrificing depth in long-term play. If you're already a worldwide veteran, you'll recognize everything here. There aren't any huge surprises or big changes to the basics, but hopefully you'll appreciate the new material and enjoy the involved rules. I think that's always good. It's like there's not much changes here, that hopefully it'll be more accessible to you, and you're not having to look for things quickly. So if you're picking up for this book sign, this text is still written and organized to give the basics first and then expand on your play options. You can get right in the game with just how to play this game and the first episode and then go from there. Brilliant. Right. So, Worldwide Wrestling is a game that creates professional wrestling pageantry and action. It's about feuds, championships, betrayal, and righteous victory. It's about the clash of good and evil on the grandest stage. It's about whether you've got what it takes, and in the end, it's about what the audience thinks of your efforts. You don't need to know much about real-world wrestling in order to play this game well. Phew. And all you need is a concept for an entertaining character. Wrestling is the drama of the personal conflict, exaggerated to become mythic. This game plunges your wrestler into these feuds, guiding you through the drama. I was going to say trauma. Drama as it escalates in more and more crowd-pleasing ways. Storylines get complicated by two concurrent threads always going on. One is on-screen crafted story, told by the larger-than-life wrestlers, managers, valets, and authority figures in the fictional wrestling universe you create at your table. The other is the legit story that happens off-camera as the professional entertainers wearing the spandex backstage in order to advance their careers, attract more eyeballs to the product, and do what's best for business. I will say, I just remembered it now. I remember watching Glow, the TV show. I highly recommend checking that out. That was such a good example of like showing like these amazing women putting on these personas and stuff, and being completely different to those people backstage. I just remember that now. Such a good show. Should not have got cancelled. So this game is for both wrestling fans curious about role-playing games and experienced gamers who want to see what this whole wrestling thing is about. Either way, if you're reading this, you probably already know how to enjoy the double life of a wrestling character, either from the wrestling side or from the RPG side. Quite annoying this, isn't it? It's curious that it did say that experienced gamers, so maybe it's not necessarily your first RPG you want to get people to get into. The characters in this game are professionals at playing roles, so you'll play the role of someone playing a role. Oh, so it's a bit meta, isn't it? It's not difficult. Focus on the wrestling first. As you get used to how the game works, you'll start blending the legit with the kayfabe and playing with the boundaries between a wrestling character, my character, a wrestler, and yourself as an audience member to the unfolding game. The key perspective you'll need to remember is that you're playing a character who's trying to entertain an audience. This concept is shorthand as the imaginary viewing audience. The imaginary viewing audience embodies the idea that your wrestling character is always on screen. The folks who pay good money to be entertained are the ones who ultimately determine the success or failure of your individual wrestlers and the promotion as a whole. In addition to using this audience as a fictional conceit, some of the rules to keep track of how engaged your imaginary viewing audience is with the product you present. Are you pleasing your audience? And if not, what will you change? There is also a non-imaginary audience, you and your friends. The goal of the wrestlers in your game is to gain popularity and acclaim. The goal of you and your fellow players is to entertain each other and enjoy each other's creativity. I really like that. I like that because, yeah, you want to be, for this one, because you are doing almost like PvP stuff, right? You want to be able to be like, to just enjoy if someone comes up with a really cool move and it doesn't matter who wins, because there has to be a loser at some point, right? That's pretty cool. Most of the time, your descriptions of actions and the dialogue you put into the wrestler's mouth is seen by the imaginary viewing audience, both live at the ring and broadcast over the airwaves or the internet. Sometimes a scene will take place off camera. This means you're free to express the real lives of your fictional wrestling characters and explore their interactions as co-workers and professionals with clashing personal agendas. As you learn more about the wrestlers' off-camera lives, conflict will arise with the booking decisions that are made in order to please the imaginary viewing audience. The friction between the real and the performance, and the backstage and the ring, and the person and the mask, that's where the game really shines. Nice. Oh, I'm excited. So we've got everything we need to play at a level that matches your interest in professional wrestling and your experience with role-playing games. So, to start, you can play a one-shot episode with these sort of... Oh, that's so cool. It sort of breaks it up. So we can read the first 2 chapters, for example, which includes this sort of quick start at the beginning. We've got the 15 core gimmicks, and the base moves, ring move. So that's all we would need if we wanted just to play a quick one-shot. Here's the things we would need, and we can go find that. Amazing. But then if we wanted to do... But then after that, if we're like, that was really, really fun, we can then continue to play a season with these 4 key focus chapters, so making the roster, moves, wrestling, how to play a wrestler, and then something for the creative, the GM. Oh! And then to include the promotion as a living, changing entity that responds to the successes and failures of your wrestlers, you can add then the following chapter of Build Your Promotion Up. That's interesting. Maybe I don't know what promotion is in this then. Is it like just this random element? Maybe is it you play without a not a referee. What am I talking about? Without a creative? Oh, that's pretty cool. And if you want to play out the lives of your wrestlers between episodes, you can do Hitting Up the Road. If you want to get deeper into the world of pro wrestling, how role-playing and wrestling play off each other, and then you can read the chapter which has those essays from wrestling experts and role-playing pros on how it all comes together. Amazing. So using this text, this is both a reading and reference text. If you read it straight through, it starts with the basics of getting to play right away, then goes through the long-term play, and then finally helpful resources for those new to wrestling, roleplay, or both. This means some information is repeated in stiffer sections where it is relevant. The cross-references and color-coded tabs on the right-hand side of the page are meant to help find the information on the fly. Amazing. What a great accessibility thing. Again, if I had this as a physical book, that would be really, really cool to do. Unfortunately, I do not. It is a PDF. But you know what? Absolute kudos. Really like that design. All right. So, know your role. So players take on 3 broad roles in worldwide wrestling. Most players create and play individual wrestling characters that are on the roster of a single wrestling promotion. Right, so promotion must be the evening, the night, the scenario that we're in. Okay. There are other wrestlers and characters in the promotion called non-player wrestlers, or NPWs. Amazing. This is what I was talking about before, about having like terminology specific to your game. Like, don't be like oh, you know, they're investigators, and you're a keeper, but then it's still non-playable characters. No, stuff like non-player wrestlers. Perfect. That's all we need. That's all we need. Then we have a single player called the creative. It takes on the role of writing, booking, and planning staff of the promotion. This is the games master or master of ceremonies role you might be familiar with from other games. And this was the really cool bit. So during a wrestling match, one of the players who is not booked into the match becomes the announcer, providing color commentary and helping tell the story of the match by describing the impact of what's going on in the ring. The announcer's role moves around to different players during each episode. I love that. So it's almost like a mini game master-esque type role. So you can have the creator who sets up what it looks like, and here's the scenarios, what we're starting with, but then they could switch in and play as a wrestler as well. And maybe just do, maybe are the final facilitator. I love the idea that everyone gets a good shout at being like the announcer and adding some colour commentary to it. My friends over at Backwater Bastards, they used to do some death matches, part of their bonus stuff, and all their stuff was just actual just sort of role play, like what they would do in terms of moves and stuff like that, and switch between the different announcers for them as well. That was, yeah, I really love the verses, maybe not death matches. I can't remember. In many groups, the player who owns the game has arranged a session of play tends also to take on the creative role, but this isn't necessary. Anyone comfortable in being a dictator, a directorial role should feel free to try being a creative. Everyone plays a wrestler. Everyone else plays a wrestler. Okay, so as a creative, you do not have a wrestler. This split of one player being the creative and the rest of you playing individual wrestlers is default, but you can divide these roles up in other ways as well. So if you're interested in sharing the creative work, check out creative committees. Oh, nice. So everyone gets to play being creative. And for playing one-on-one, we've got a chapter for that as well. Amazing. Already I'm very excited that it's already gone like, hey, you want a variation on this? Here it is. We're coming to it later. Don't panic about it. Don't worry about it. Alright, so each player picks a gimmick for their wrestler. Gimmicks are broad archetypes that describe individual performers. Each player chooses a unique gimmick, though they can change gimmicks throughout their careers. The gimmick describes the wrestling persona of your character. Remember, you play the real person behind the mask as they inhibit that archetype. You can choose to play these two aspects as similar, so like a skilled mat technician who also leads in the locker room, or contrast them, like a cool calculating pro who plays a larger-than-life terrifying monster. Players narrate the actions of their wrestlers as they compete in matches and try to advance their careers within the company. There are 15 cool gimmicks included in this book, which represent a wide variety of approaches to wrestling and specific narrative roles within a promotion. There's a quick rundown of them in the first episode. Okay, we'll come to that for sure. And you can also see the full details in the reference section later on in the book. Other gimmicks may be created over time and are available at ndpsdesign.com website. In addition, you can come up with your own gimmicks and represent an archetype that isn't covered by an existing gimmick, so you can write your own custom ones. Amazing. Alright, so which ones we've got? We've got the ace, who runs the place, the anointed, who is the future, the anti-hero, who sticks it to the man, the call-up, who finally made it, the clown, who keeps them laughing, the fighter, who never gives up, the hardcore, who bleeds for their fans, the jobber, who makes the stars shine, the luminary, who made it big, the luchador, who flies through the air, the manager, who makes the big money, the monster, who cannot be matched, the provocateur. Yes, who pushes the limits. I know that. The technician, who puts on the clinics, and the veteran, who shows how it's done. The provocateur. I won't be playing that gimmick anytime soon. Okay, so the creative plans the show. So while the players pick the gimmicks and make their characters, the creative plans out the upcoming episodes. Creative books the show by orchestrating the environment around the wrestlers, showcasing their strengths and giving them opportunities to indulge in their flaws. When you're creative, you can decide what matches are scheduled, book the results of those matches, and play non-wrestling vignettes, as well as off-camera scenes to put pressure on the careers of the wrestlers. You also play supporting characters, called non-playable wrestlers, as needed. Creative, by themselves or in conversation with the group, decides on the theme and tone of the promotion the wrestlers work for. This can be anything from a name and a few key NPWs to one of the included example promotions. Yes, exactly, later on. To your own unique company built using the rules for living promotions. Ooh, for living promotions. You can transition from a sketchy outline to a fully realized living promotion during play, so you don't have to, you don't need to decide right away what will work best for your game, but you do want to start the first episode with something in mind. Maybe I've been pronouncing it wrong this whole time. Okay, so kayfabe, maybe not keyfabe. So I've made an effort to state as much as possible in plain English, but kayfabe, pronounced two syllables, kayfabe, used both as a noun and an adjective, is a core concept of professional wrestling world that also runs through worldwide wrestling. Kayfabe is the scripted fictional reality in which the audience suspends their disbelief to enjoy. A wrestler may have a kayfabe arm injury as part of their character and wear a cast for years. Two wrestlers may be kayfabe siblings in the ring, when in real life they are not. Or wrestlers that may get kayfabe. Oh, glad the book also explains wrestling concepts that the player might not be familiar with. Well, same. I don't know anything really about this as well, and I think they put in a lot of terminology. Certainly, the second edition they've really gone through. Like the first edition does a lot of content, I think, but now they've split it up into these very nice layouts, I think, as well. So yeah, absolutely good shout there, Chindividual. The Chindividual. I'll get it right. Where was I? All wrestlers may get kayfabe married without reflecting an actual romantic relationship. In the Territory era, kayfabe was a stricter code of silence where wrestlers would go to extreme lengths to preserve the idea that they were really fighting or that the match results weren't fixed. In today's media-saturated world, however, trying to determine what's kayfabe real and what's really real is much as part of a wrestling is as much a part of being a wrestling fan as cheering for your favorite wrestler. Nice. Okay. And then we put it all together in the ring. So it's a pro wrestling game, so get excited to wrestle. Creative books the matches. This means deciding who competes when and who is going to win. Any player whose wrestler is not involved in the in-ring action becomes the announcer, either chosen by the creative or on a volunteer basis. The announcer helps describe the wrestling action, putting their own spin on events, and holds the unique power to put over the wrestlers in the ring in order to push them onto higher levels of success. A player will remain the announcer until the end of the match or the entrance of their wrestler, whereupon they hand the responsibility over to someone else. A player might be the announcer multiple times, once or never in a given episode, depending on the flow of play. How cool is that? I absolutely love that. The core mechanic of this game. So creative makes plans for storytelling and books matches. The actions and the agendas of the player wrestlers will change the plan. The creative's primary job is to take those swerves and incorporate them into the game in such a way that it makes it look like it was planned that way all along. Ooh, it feels very improv-like, doesn't it? I love that. So while the players at the table work together to make an entertaining wrestling show, their wrestlers can and will clash about in the best way to do that. Your efforts to entertain the imaginary viewing audience and the conflict about how to do it are where the game's rules kick in to push your storylines to unforeseen, exciting places. Wrestling lingo grows its roots from carnival sideshows and forks legitimate athletic contests. Well, I've not tried to go overboard. We've got some key terms. Oh, well, we're going to have to read these key terms, aren't we? So to book is to plan the show and decide on the outcomes of the matches ahead of time. The head of a wrestling promotion could also be the booker, but often employs a booker or multiple people in charge of booking different parts of the card. In this game, the creative is the booker, but some gimmicks give other players the ability to book a segment of their own. Whenever you see book with this visual format, presumably in bold, it means the previously agreed upon outcome of the match for rule purposes. Oh, I love that. So it's not only is it like telling you what it is, but what it means within the rules for us. If you see this as a player, you're like, oh, this is what it means in my moves. So to botch is to flub a wrestling move or to refer to one that was executed poorly. In this game, a botch is any dice roll of 6 or less. Oh, excellent. And triggers an unwelcome consequence, triggers unwelcome consequences for the player who rolled the botch. If a botch occurs during a wrestling match, the narration should include how the wrestler messes up their intended maneuver. Heat. Heat can refer to any notable response from the crowd, in particular to a heel, or legit bad blood between people backstage. This game uses plus heat as a stat to reflect the positive crowd interaction to the relationships between two wrestlers, whether those characters are allies or enemies. Over. Popular with the fans. Getting over is the act of gaining that popularity, and putting over is the act of making your opponent look good. One of the basic moves in this game is the over move, which reflects the status of being the most popular wrestler on the card. Ooh. A specific mood or storyline that can also be over because it gets the crowd going, whether the wrestlers associated with it are over or not. Oh, that's pretty cool. I like that. Okay, then we've got pop, the vocal crowd reaction to a wrestler's appearance or a particularly exciting moment of a match. Wrestlers will often compete to pop the crowd the most. You might also pop for something another wrestler does, meaning that you'll really go for it on an emotional, aesthetic, or professional level. Sell is making something look good by your reaction, usually in the context of selling your opponent's move in the ring. Since wrestlers are not actually trying to hurt each other with their maneuvers, selling is what communicates the efficiency of a move to the audience. Shoot. Opposite to a work, which you will see below, a shoot refers to something that is really happening. This game uses the term legit interchangeably with shoot. Shooting on someone generally means really hurting someone with a legit wrestling hold or strike, teach them a lesson, or out of revenge for a slight. Spot. So this is a wrestling maneuver or sequence of maneuvers that are meant to particularly impress a crowd or move the story of a match along. Like, did you see that spot where they both jumped off ladders at the same time through a table? Classic. Also used to refer to an individual move or moment like the clothesline spot. Swerve. It's an unexpected change of plans, either to surprise the audience or a legit change necessitated by something like an injury or a no-show. Generally, players swerve creative booking with their wrestlers' actions. Then we have the finish, the predetermined ending of a wrestling match and the details of how the wrestler who's supposed to win gets their victory. In this game, once the player knows who's booked to win, it's up to them to decide how that actually happens, including opportunities to plus swerve of their own. And then penultimately, we've got work. So this is opposite to a shoot. That's a work is a reference to the scripted nature of a moment in the show. To work with someone is to wrestle them, and wrestlers often refer to each other as workers. This game uses plus work as a stat that represents a character's technical wrestling ability. Right, so far we've had what we had. We've had over, and we had heat. So heat, over, and now we've got work. Okay. Then a worked shoot. A stage event or a storyline, the work meant to look to the audience as if it's actually happening, the shoot. Work shoots can be powerful ways to engage the audience, but can also lead to real-world consequences as the stage conflict leads into the performer's actual lives. Successful uses of the plus real stat in this game generally reflects or describes work shoots. Okay, so it's real. Then we've got real, heat, over, and work. Those were our 4 stats, I think. How to play this game. Alright, let's get into it. We have to have between 4 to 6 people. This game supports between 3 to 9 players. Oh my lord. I'm guessing that must include the creative as well, but oof. Scary. 9 people. I don't think I know 9 people. Copies of the gimmick sheets and move sheets, which we've got at the back. Pencils and at least 2 normal D6s. Having more dice than a handful of tokens per player is also helpful. So one person takes on the role of the creative. The others will each take a gimmick sheet and play the individual wrestlers. The game is divided into episodes of play, each one representing a single live show, televised broadcast, or pay-per-view event of your wrestling franchise. A single episode is to take about roughly between 1 to 3 hours of real time to play. If you play multiple of these, it's called a season. Playing in a private space where you and your friends can relax with snacks and refreshments is ideal. Agreed. I wouldn't, unless you were doing this as for an actual stream or maybe for a show. I wouldn't do this one in the pub personally. What we got? You'll be handling multiple sheets of paper in place, so a table that you can spread out is usually helpful. Sometimes the person playing the creative also hosts the game, but your group can show appreciation for the host by cleaning up after the game, regardless of who it is. or you could just give them all the stats. That's how I do it. Yeah, so we can use online. So we've got, Skype. Gosh, what you mean Teams or Zoom? Yeah, so yeah, you can always play these online as well. In that case, they should have a copy of the game sheet and other references, plus a shared dice roller, or trust everyone to roll for themselves. One advantage of online play is quickly linking out to visual references. Ah, true. Videos of maneuvers and audio clips of entrance music. That's true. I hadn't considered that. Like online play, you could play your music as you're coming into the game and stuff. I love that. One thing I'd say, I didn't see this. I'm sure there is one somewhere, but it'd be cool to have like an online character tracker keeper, like gimmick tracker keeper, so that you could easily put all the characters in one place and see all their different moves. That would make sense to me. I didn't see that necessarily with the downloads when we were looking at it earlier, but that's what I would put to. That's the thing I would think about. Alright, so the medium of play, you play this game by talking. You and your friends are going to have a long, heated discussion about wrestling. The rules will turn your discussion of a series of dramatics. The rules will turn your discussion into a series of dramatic stories. They specify what you can talk about, create incentive to say certain things and not others, and complicate what you do say so that your conversation goes to places you would never have expected. You know how in a board game the rules tell you where to place your pieces, what to do on your turn, and what happens when you play a certain card at a certain time? Instead of looking at a board, you describe what's happening in your imagination. The best kind of board game. And the rules guide you in detailing those ideas and sharing them with everyone. The basic rules of a game are summarized on reference sheets, which you'll have on the table during play. They are all listed together at the end of this book. Brilliant. I like how it's all kept in one place. And the rest of this text here is instructional by specifying which rules apply in which situations, and educational in that it's intended to explain the reasoning behind and the implications of the design choices. It also includes many ways to expand your game into new areas as you gain mastery over the basics. Because conversations can go all over the place, the rules are here to guide and support many different areas of interest in the king of sports. You won't need to use every single rule in this book when you play, but much of what will probably come up in your conversations are covered. And creating new rules for your specific group are also included. Nice. All right. So, you're a wrestling fan who's already experienced with role-playing games. This will be familiar territory. Go to the big picture below, to this bit. If you're familiar with role-playing games but not so knowledgeable about wrestling, there's an essay on that, 2 essays even, and then the art of play, which is later on. So it's referring to these essays. You know what? One thing is a bit of a shame. This could be my copy. It's not linked. I would love to be able to click to this and just jump ahead if it was backlinked. That's the only thing. And to get right into the action, Chapter 2, the first episode, which we're coming on to, we're only on page 14 just now, the walkthrough guide of your first episode of play, and this should help you teach the game as you go. The quick start on page 37 also gives us specific advice for instructing your first episode and handling common things that come up. Ooh, and there's some video and audio actual play examples. I'll have to check that out. Nice. Okay. Ooh, oh, look at these. Oh, how good are these images, guys? I like it almost like training dummies. So cool. All right. So, the big picture. You'll start with a first episode presented here, starting on page 17, as a step-by-step walkthrough of a single play session, so a one-shot. Once through your first episode, you'll have the context to start making between session decisions about the direction of your game. Sometimes the first episode is the only one you'll get to play, so the game is designed to play as a fun standalone one-shot session, as well as in long-running campaigns. That's the sign. I think that's always a sign of a good RPG. To start the first episode, the players create a set of interesting and iconic wrestlers, whilst creative comes up with the constellation of rivals, heroes, and love interests who surround them in the promotion. If you know you'll be playing a season from the start, you may also introduce your promotion as its own character, possessed of special supports and particular struggles that your wrestlers will help it deal with as you gain more audience and grow over time. Alright. So during the episode, the creative narrates segments as they happen, so the promos, matches, backstage interviews, and so on. and portrays non-player wrestlers involved in them. The players narrate their wrestlers' actions and dialogues during those segments as they interact with those particular NPWs. Some players will also serve as the announcer for individual wrestling matches, calling the action and potentially pulling over wrestlers in the ring. Everyone uses moves, which are the rules for that drive moment by moment. Which are the rules that drive moment by moment play. Moves represent important and memorable actions, with the results creating consequences that drive the progression of each segment. Player moves generally require a roll of the dice to guide or direct what happens. Each gimmick has unique moves, in addition to general moves which all the player wrestlers will have access to. Wrestling matches are also handled by the use of moves, featuring a specific method to pass narrative control back and forth amongst participants, in order to encapsulate the tension and excitement of bringing anything you can imagine into a professional wrestling match. The creative's moves are structural elements of the world around the players' wrestlers that they bring in to drive play, create consequences for the wrestlers' choices and mistakes, or both. As your storylines unfold over subsequent episodes, the wrestlers will grow and change. Some may go through multiple gimmicks, whilst others will cultivate their original personas into legends. Over time, as you get to know the wrestlers better, their real lives off-screen may become more relevant to how they perform in the ring, and vice versa. If you want to dive into the lives of your wrestlers between performances, you may want to play out some events on the road as they travel between gigs. An entire season of worldwide wrestling can take anywhere from 3 to 12 episodes. Oh, interesting. You can plan it out in advance, for example, just by agreeing to have 6 episode seasons, or let the events dictate the number of episodes. As wrestlers develop, they may require new rules to support their player's vision. Anything that isn't provided here can be covered by making up a custom move that reflects the iconic actions of a given wrestler. A season typically ends when a combination of the following comes together at the same time, so either or even some of the current storylines are wrapped up in the group's satisfaction. Some of the wrestlers lose the attention of the audience and are fired. Some of the wrestlers are ready to retire after achieving the goals in the ring, where a living promotion faces too many struggles and doesn't have enough support. Right, if you're going to be the creative, go over to the first episode. Yeah. If you want to play with a living promotion, we could look at that. We're not going to do that. Read over wrestling for orientation about how wrestling mechanic matches work in the game. Nah, I've got essays as well. Block out a couple of hours for the first session. Queue up some of your favourite wrestling clips to get inspired and get into the act. Nice. What I love... Oh, wow. Let's zoom out a little bit. What I love is the flow. The way it's sort of... it's obviously very easy to read aloud. Like, I know I'm still making a few mistakes. But it's very conversational, the tone, and it's very much, it's trying to get you into like, hey, I'm really excited about this particular topic. I want you to be excited about it. And it explains those concepts in a way that is very straightforward and very sort of like common sense. It's not overwhelming, which I liked. The tone of it wasn't apologetic about it, but it's like, I'm trying to boil it down to its the basics, just so you know, so you're not left behind. I very much appreciate the writer's tone in this. It feels very sort of inviting and very encouraging to read. And yeah, I think that's also very hard to do, and it just shows the sign of maybe refinement. And that's the thing, I always think that if you put out an RPG, you have to consider, like, after a couple of months or whatever, going back and revising it in some way just to check the tone, just to make sure the mechanics work, etc. Just because I think that shows sign of, like, just checking your work and that sort of maintenance of, like, making it accessible for maybe a new audience who maybe just stumbled across your game and are like, oh, what's this? And just keeping it as simple as possible. I think, yeah, some really good writing from that introduction. Really, really like it. All right, so the first episode, so this is one we're going to look at, won't we? So the first episode is a stage for the players to show off their wrestlers and for the creatives to sow seeds. There we go. Seeds of conflict for the ensuing not that kind of game episode. You're all meeting these characters for the first time, so it's best to keep things simple and make obvious choices. As you play, storylines will change, wrestlers will grow, and your promotion will become its own unique version of worldwide wrestling. Generally, creative guides, the creative. I always find that really weird. It's creative, but it's not like the creative. I wonder if that's just like grammar thing that I'm struggling with. Generally, creative guides the rest of the group through these episodes, so the chapter is addressed towards them. Okay, we're special, guys. Okay, so building rosters. So to start, hand out those gimmick sheets. Each player chooses one that appeals to them. Gimmicks are unique to each character. There may be other big wrestlers, but only the monster gets special treatment. Just as there may be many experienced hands, but only the veteran has a hold on the spotlight. That sounds like you can own only one gimmick is allowed, but like one version or one kind, one per gimmick. Yeah, basically one gimmick. You can't have two monsters. You can't have two anti-heroes. That sort of thing in a session or in a promotion. Sorry. Each gimmick showcases a different archetype drawn from the rich world of wrestling. If you want to keep things simple, you may want to limit your choices to the most straightforward gimmicks. And it's done that there with their thing. They've we've got the Anointed, the Anti-Hero, the Clown, the Fighter, the Hardcore, the Jobber, the Luchador, the Monster, the Technician, the Veteran. So these 10, they're like, these are the simplest ones, or the basic ones, go for these ones. And then the remaining ones are slightly more complicated rules, reflect archetypes that are more familiar to devoted wrestling fans. Ooh. Or representative of less action-focused wrestling personas. Persona? Alright, so once we've got our selected gimmicks, so once we've got our playbooks, come up with a name and a general look right under now they make their way to the ring. Choose and create answers from the hailing from and entrance box. Follow their stat instructions and list the 4 stats in the box as provided. There's spaces on both sides of the sheet for easy reference. Ooh, okay. Pick a want from the list provided. Pick any moves they have available in addition to any starting moves already checked on their sheet. Mark their starting audience score by checking the box next to the number indicated by this gimmick starts and resets to sentence. Okay, so yeah. And take a token. So it got momentum in here as well. So take a token to represent their starting momentum as per their audience score and write their starting momentum in the space provided. Players do not mark anything under heat or pick their starting role yet. Those will be done once everyone introduces their wrestlers, so you know who is on the roster. Also, leave injuries and advances blank, as new players don't have either of those yet. Nice. Okay, so again, very straightforward. What was it, like a 7-step process for creating a character? Oh, and here is an example. Gosh, wow, these images. As always, I tend not to read out the play examples in case I'm not entirely sure of a particular mechanic. But here it's just going through like these 4 people. So Sarah, Eric, Anna, and Ed are playing, so they're picking up their characters, etc. I'm going through that as well. We might look at some of these playbooks. Gimmicks later. I have an example of it. It looks so clean as well, like with the color of it, and just before I seem to remember that before it was like a vertical layout, not a horizontal layout for some reason. All right, so heating up. So once everyone has made their initial choices for their wrestlers, it's time to build their heat. Heat represents the reaction of the imaginary viewing audience to see 2 wrestlers interact, ranging from 0, which is no heat, to +4, the crowd goes wild every time they face off. All the players' wrestlers start with heat with each other. Wrestlers can also gain heat with non-player wrestlers during play. All the players write down the other wrestlers' names on their sheet, then pick one player to start. One player looks at the heat questions for their gimmick, picks one, and asks the table. Any one other player volunteers to answer that question, and the asking player adds +1 heat they have with the answerer's wrestler. So this is where it's building ICDs. This is where you build up the connections. Repeat a number of times equal to the other players to up to 4 provided questions. Up to 4. Okay, I guess it's tricky if you've got 9 wrestlers in. How that would work per se. So, do you imagine if we did do that though, like a full-on actual play series where you had 9 people? I'm sure that has been done. Maybe I should do that. That'd be quite a fun, like, yeah, if we were commissioning that for like an actual play, like Builds for these worlds, or for actual play UK, or any of the RPGs things I go for, I'm like, okay, here's a thought. I want 8 people. However, they all don't have to be in there at the same time. Just that first game when everyone creates their characters. Repeat a number of times. Yeah. Then go to the next player and ask their heat questions, and so on. If one player wants to answer multiple questions, it's fine. Oh, I see. Repeat a number of times equal to the other players up to 4 provided questions. I understand. Okay, so that's one person. It's not the whole group. Okay. As heat questions are answered, talk out the backstory or relationship implied by the questions. This creates a shared history of wrestlers as you meet them for the first time. If a question doesn't fit with your concept for your wrestler, throw it out there anyway and see if someone else sees potential in it. Wrestlers often have complicated backstories or segments in their careers that don't quite match up with their current character. If there's more than 5 players, or if nobody volunteers to answer someone's questions, it just means not all the wrestlers have crossed paths yet. Ah, okay. During this process, keep your own notes on the dynamics created by the heat questions as they've answered. This is a great resource for you for booking this episode and then to use as a baseline for future storylines. Setting the initial heat will give you a sense of the basic alliances amongst the characters, the mentor-mentee relationships that you can seek to enhance or strain, and who has legit beef with who. Once the players have asked and answered their heat questions, everyone decides on whether they're starting as a babyface or a heel. That would be good if we had that. I know what they mean, but obviously it would be good to have. I mean, I'm going to say it down here. Maybe we'll do actually defining what those are. So, every wrestler starting as a heel takes an additional +1 heat for every babyface, and vice versa. Heels are often seen as the villains, and babyfaces are seen as the good guys. Often, players have already decided before this point, but this is a time to make a final decision for anyone who hasn't yet. Generally, you want a roughly even split of heels and babyfaces for the first episode. Remind everyone that they can change role during play. There we go. See stuff here. So, heroes and villains. So most players are going to gravitate towards one or the other roles immediately. You can also help by summarizing the key difference between the two. So, babyfaces stand up for what they believe in. If someone wants to play a babyface, ask them, what do you do to get the crowd cheering for you? Heels will break any rule in order to get what they want. If someone wants to play a heel, ask them, what do you do to get the crowd booing you? The tension between the babyface who refuses to give up their principles and the heel who's willing to do anything to win underlies almost every wrestling feud. Building the heat. The heat questions are thematic to the gimmicks and designed to create reliable drama between the wrestlers for any game of worldwide wrestling. However, you can replace them if you want to go further afield, or if you've played enough and that the questions aren't exciting anymore. Write your own, or check out ndpdesign.com for third-party supplements that expand on the basics. Amazing, brilliant. All right. Oh, and there's another play example here. So talking about going through that setting heat things. That's quite nice that they've broken it down like that. Oh, look at that, and they've even got a diagram. So that's what you could do as a creative. Actually, sort of have that sort of big sort of like spider diagram. Maybe that's what I would do if I was having 9. Well, it's 8 people, including yourself, right? So if I had 8 wrestlers on my roster, I'd have this huge, big spider diagram on the wall as I create it, and be like, all right, team, here's what I've got for the first episode, and then go from there. I really want to do a whole full series now. I've not even looked at the rules, and I'm already keen to do it. That's great. All right. Last time on Worldwide Wrestling. Once the heat is set, go around the table one last time. Each player comes up with a highlight moment from the last installment of the ongoing wrestling show you're going to be joining shortly. This could be a big wrestling move, an encounter backstage, the beginning or end of a feud, or anything else they've come up with to showcase how cool their wrestler is. The sole restriction is that no one can give themselves a championship belt. That clearly has come up in some sort of playtest. Amazing. If a wrestler is debuting for the very first time in this first episode, the player can describe hype videos or teasers, or maybe an backstage or off-camera interaction if they want to be a true surprise debut. That's really cool. I really like that. Yes, I like that a lot. If and I can imagine again, if we were doing this, if it was all pre-recorded, I could ask the players to go away and do like almost like a Taskmaster type teaser trailer, and then we put it all into the pre-recorded event. That's so silly. But I'd love to do it. If the main event for the episode is going to be a full roster match, like Regal Wrangle, this is a good time to do pre-recorded promos. These don't have any rules associated with them. That must be a promotion, Regal Wrangle, right? These don't have any rules associated with them. Each player delivers a promo their wrestler would have recorded backstage before the event, highlighting why they deserve to win or what they're planning to do in the big match. This is a good way to get everyone thinking about their wrestler promo style and plans for the episode, even if you don't have a big match planned. In general, pre-recorded promos are a great warm-up to get everyone in the headspace of their wrestler and ready to go. Okay, booking the event is the main thing for the creatives. The main goal of the first episode is to introduce the wrestlers to the imaginary viewing audience. The secondary goal is to get the players comfortable with the basic moves and other rules of the game. Booking the episode is the first step of both goals. I've just had a thought as well. If you didn't want to have 8 wrestlers, or it's very hard to get them all at one time, you go back to the idea of like dropping in a new person. Maybe that's what I'd do as well. It's like we could have like 4 people who are the core wrestling cast, and then on each week, or however many episodes you do, well, up to 12, so what's that, 3 months? Oh, you can have other people coming back and playing different characters and stuff. That could be quite fun. Once the players have decided on their gimmicks, built up heat for each other, and described their last time seen or promo, take a 10-minute break. Then you book the show. This involves deciding who is in what match and the results of those matches. Wherever you see the word book in this format, that's referring to the predetermined match results that you start coming up with now. I wonder if you were doing this as an actual play, would you tell the audience what the predetermined things were going to be, or would you keep that secret from that viewing audience? I guess you would, right? And you would tell the players in that break. So we're about to come back from break. Just so you know, here's the thing. I'm going to say who the booking is, and then I'm going to tell you who wins. I'm not going to tell that to the actual stream audience. So it's more interesting. And maybe then you could do some charity stuff where you could like, place, I don't know, bits or subscriptions on who you think's going to win. I don't know. That might be a bit dodgy, to be fair, for anything like that. But I just like that idea of like, how do you interact with the audience for this particular RPG if you were streaming it? So an effective tool for this episode is a list of wrestlers. You can pull wrestlers from the included promotions, roll on the random wrestlers table. Oh, cool. Or make up your own as you like. Also, note any non-player wrestlers demanded or implied by the player's choices, and think of a few that you would like to you'd want to make sure to have a prominent place in the promotion. Despite the name, NPWs can be non-wrestlers like can also be non-wrestlers, so like promoter, general manager, backstage interviewer, and the like. There's a list of suggestions as well. God, this book's great. Booking the first episode is pretty simple. Decide which wrestlers will have matches with each other. Player versus player, player versus non-player wrestler. All NPWs versus NPW matches are handled by you simply narrating what happens, keeping the focus on the player wrestlers. Yeah, I don't think there would, unless we did like a tournament where we pulled things out of hats or anything like that, names out of a hat. I think I want everyone to have a go at being a match, and maybe we wouldn't describe the non-player wrestling matches if it was all those ones, for example. And book who's going to win each match, decide what order the matches occur in, outline segments that will take place between matches, so vignettes. I always read that as vinaigrette, I don't know why. Backstage or in-ring promotions, candid interviews, and the like. A good default is to plan to interview each wrestler before the match, either backstage or in the ring. And for more examples, see a non-exhaustive list of segments. Ah, nice. And for a more detailed walkthrough booking your show, see this quick start. I assume that might be like a play example, perhaps. I mean, we'll look at it anyway. And you're live. Classic. So once you've booked the episode, go to the action. A basic episode is modelled after the mainstream televised wrestling shows, interspersing interviews, promotional segments, and wrestling matches in such a way as to create drama that will keep your viewers watching and engaged. I do wonder if you would put in maybe adverts as well. And maybe I'll put that in for part of the promos, perhaps. In addition to promos and backstage segments for each wrestler to set up or follow their matches, you can use segments to introduce non-player wrestlers and big prizes for matches such as championship titles. Don't worry about having off-camera scenes unless they come up organically, or you have the opportunity to make a hard move that demands one. Integrating real life or the characters with an on-screen action is usually a feature of a longer-term play. The rest of this chapter is broken down into basic rules for the most common things you'll need to know in an episode. Oh look, we've got... Oh, God, this looks brilliant, isn't it? Handling stereotypes and using safety tools. Tick, that's what we're coming up next. And we've got the basics, which is the engine, which presumably is the Powered by the Apocalypse engine. Making moves, such as cut a promo, work the audience, or performing an athletic feat. The momentum, audience, being creative, wrestling, and announcer. Nice. And that's all in what? We're on page 23 just now? 10 pages, the main rules for that first episode. Pretty good. Remember that the players are able to ask for and sometimes demand their own segments. You are responsible for adapting your plans to what comes up in play. This is addressed in more detail later on how to be creative. I just wish there was an A there, how to be a creative or be creative. But you have these three primary duties as a creative. So we have celebrate and challenge the players. Make it look like you had it planned that way all along. Entertain the imaginary viewing audience. Make all your decisions during the first episode with these three agendas in mind. The rest of the book is devoted to a deep dive of how the rules work, fleshing out the creative's job, structure for living promotions, and exploring the wrestlers' lives on the road and between shows, example promotions, inspirational resources to use in your games of worldwide wrestling, and reference sections for all the gimmicks. I love how it's so clear, structured. It goes, hey, here's the things that are coming up. As if, like, I've literally just taken, you know what it's like? It's almost as if they've split the book, these chapters, and like, here's chapter 2 as an individual booklet. I can imagine just printing this out, chapter 2 out, and handing it to someone for the first time and go, it's all you need for your first episode. And it just so happens that it has that information again. It's said it before, like, hey, some of this information will be repeated if you read all the way through. And I don't mind that. I actually don't mind it acknowledging that, because if anything, the more an information is repeated, like, isn't it not like you need to hear something 7 times before it goes in and you remember it? So just a thought there. Like, again, really good choice. And I think it also shows just going to it now, like I talked before about the tone and the easy to read style and stuff, and also the conversational way it's talking to you as the creative. But I also think what was I gonna say? It was gonna be something, it was about the simple language. It was more about, like, I feel very comfortable. Like, I feel like I feel like I'm not overwhelmed by anything. I'm not worried that I don't know anything about wrestling per se. I'm actually excited that I could come up with a wrestler that doesn't fit in, that fits into one of those gimmicks. And I love the terminology. So yeah, I'm already like, oh, really good. And I actually, yeah, that's what I'm thinking now. I'm like, I want to know more about, like, those essays and stuff. Maybe I want to watch some stuff. And I love that there is like a reading list as well, resources, maybe matches to watch, etc. And of course, it talks about those stereotypes and keeping people safe at a table, which is fantastic. Every game should have this. Maybe it could have been done a little earlier, but maybe it's been deliberately put in this particular chapter so that if you were going to just print out chapter 2 and hand it to someone, they will get this straight away. So, the world of pro wrestling relies on archetypes bordering on stereotypes. Heels in particular do and say terrible, offensive, and inappropriate things to showcase their their villainous nature and get the audience booing them. Unfortunately, a cheap and easy way to get the boos is with ethnic, racial, sexual, gendered, or other slurs or derogatory comments. A good heel doesn't need to stoop this low to be hated, but it's something that happens all too often. This doesn't mean it has to happen in your game. Fantastic. And there's an example of like booking the shirt there, so that's fine. I wouldn't have put that example here. I would put that on the further pages just so that you're not splitting up the safety tools per se, but that's fine. Because wrestling showcases the grotesque as well as the dramatic, you shouldn't shy away from using negative character traits to drive the action. But at the same time, you should be aware that other players at your table may not be on the same page about the introduction of that content to the game. Every player has their own sense of what is too much or what content they don't want to have to deal with. Sometimes they'll know it up front, but sometimes they won't know it till they see it hit the table. There are two ways for players to signal that something is crossing the line, whether it is an offensive comment, even in the mouth of a heel character, or it is counter to the vibe or style that they're going for with their segment, like bringing in comedy into a serious catch as catch can titled bout. So, try another way. If something doesn't feel right or there's a more appropriate way to make a point, a player can ask, "Hey, can you try that another way?" This could start a discussion or simply be a moment to rephrase something that was tossed off without thinking it through. It doesn't ask the other players to fundamentally change what they wanted to add to a game. It's just a reminder that there are an infinite number of ways to phrase something. So let's find one that isn't a bummer. I like that. It's on the same level for me as like new choice. That's something I taught my students last weekend. Yeah, it was last weekend. I went to Amsterdam for the improv festival in Amsterdam, and I gave them the tool. I talked about X cards and stuff like that, which I can see will come on there in a second. But one of the other tips I gave them is that if they're not sure in a new scene that or something's going on, someone says something to them that you're like, "Oh, I don't like it." Like you the improviser don't like it. You can go, "Oh, new choice." And that is almost like a switch for an improviser, because there's the game new choice where you come up with something different. And I think that's just a nice way that you're not breaking the immersion at all, and it just helps people like go, "Oh, they want something different. I can absolutely do that." And I just really like that, and that's something I teach all of my students now, just to say new choice, because it's a very it doesn't feel like aggressive. It just goes, new choice. I don't like that choice. Let's get a new one. And it's just an easy way to interact, and it's not you're not like sort of shaming that other person because they clearly have made a mistake. 9 times out of 10, they're not meaning what they said maliciously, and that's what I think Try Another Way is trying to do here as well. Then we have make the X. If something is harder, wow, I don't want that in my game. Any player can make the X. Cross your wrists in front of your chest. Cross the wrists like that. Or reach out and tap a card with an X on it. So yeah, the X card. Making the X signals to everyone that you aren't cool with what just happened in the game. You skip that moment and move forward, or time out and roll back to the beginning of the segment, or whatever the natural breakpoint is most recent. If you don't need to explain why you made the X if you don't want to, but there is something if it's something specific you feel comfortable communicating that you would like to avoid going forward, this can be an opportunity for that as well. I really like that. I really like that a lot. Because I always say that you never have to justify why you've used the X card, but it's more about like, if I might ask, what element are we X carding? So, X carding spiders, X carding smoking, that sort of thing. Depending on the table layout, set X cards along with other play materials. And yeah, it's different when you're online as well, but always good. Players can use these tools to respond to something offensive or triggering, but also maintain the tone or elide excessive aggressions. Yeah, I've had many tables where, since we're all wrestling fans, we slide into talking about the shows we've been watching and need to make the X to signal to come back to the game we're there to play. I've had to say that too. I have to be like, players, come back to me. I know you're having fun, but you need to come back and finish the story. Come to me. That's what I always say. Try Another Way is particularly helpful for creating the space to help someone out if they're stuck on a promo and would like to help with their phrasing or clarifying their point. Making the X dovetails with the wrestling convention of referee holding their arms above their head. Oh, that like that. Okay. Cross like an X to indicate that a wrestler has suffered a real injury and needs medical attention. So whilst making the X is given here as a tool for players to enforce their boundaries on what is narrated in the game, it may also come up as part of the regular storytelling. Like if an injury occurs and you need to narrate the ref making the X in the usual sense. Specifically, a player can also narrate their wrestler making the X to end a match, which generally means they are breaking kayfabe. In this case, they make the break kayfabe move. And then we've got where it comes from. Fantastic. And yes, I love it. Again, I wish the link was here that you could look it up. But the Bitly Tabletop RPG Safety Toolkit, it's a fantastic toolkit. I can highly recommend checking it out. Alright, moving on to the basics of the actual engine. Alright, so in order to grow and improve, a wrestler needs advances. To get advances, they need audience, or to achieve their wants. To get an audience, they need to get heat from feuds and matches. To achieve wants, they need specific matches. To get heat and get booked in the right kind of matches, they need to take actions to trigger the moves at their disposal. Momentum greases the wheels. So to tell the players, this is what you need to tell them. Make moves to get heat and momentum. Work matches with wrestlers so you have high heat with them. And position yourself to get booked towards your wants and get an audience. Excuse me. When you gain audience, you gain advances. Use advances to customize your wrestler's growth and decide on your destiny. Once everyone on the roster gets popular, it gains promotion as a whole, a greater audience, and the cycle resets. This probably won't come up in the first episode, but it is covered for simple promotions and living promotions. That's interesting. The cycle resets. Does that mean we unlock like a different tier per promotion of like different moves and more momentum and stuff? That's pretty wild. Alright, basic moves. Oh wow, how beautiful is that colour on that card. So the core of this game is talking, as we've described. Players will describe their wrestlers, what they say to each other, the physical moves they use in their matches, and how they play to the audience. Creative describes how the audience responds, dictates from the booker details of the arena or bingo hall around the wrestlers, and how the non-player wrestlers angle themselves into everything. Now, if everyone just talked about how cool their wrestlers are, it would get boring and predictable. This is why Worldwide Wrestling has rules called moves. Certain things you narrate into conversation trigger moves. Each individual move tells you what its trigger is and how it is resolved. Generally, the player rolls 2d6, adds a stat, and compares that to the move's outcome, the sort of success tiers. Take a look at the basic moves everyone has available to them. So for example, we've got one here, this basic move, cut a promo. He's covered the building blocks of modern wrestling, getting the audience to cheer or boo, cutting promos, running in on matches, taking risks in the ring, and so on. When a player narrates the description that matches the move, they make a roll. When they want to make a roll, they narrate the move's trigger. When they trigger a move, they roll the dice, read the appropriate result, and make any choices demanded by the move. Those choices shape the conversation from telling you whether they impress or underwhelm the crowd, to whether they add something to a big match to give themselves an edge. Moves aren't meant to be rolled every time a wrestler does something. That's what's great about Powered by the Apocalypse. You just do it once, and you could go on for another 20 minutes without saying anything, without doing another move. They describe how the main thrust of a wrestler's action or agenda goes over, and the consequences that come out of it. Don't roll cut a promo every time someone opens their mouth. Rather, they say what they want to say, from a terse back and forth with a rival to a big strategy planning session with a partner, then roll to see how the segment translates to the imaginary viewing audience. Part of your job is to confirm when someone is aiming to make a certain move, or tell them to roll when they narrate themselves into a move naturally. You should also step in when someone is going for the dice and help to guide the players to a pace that feels right for your game. Right, so let's look at this cut promo one here. So we've got, when you take the mic and speak your mind, roll plus look. So on a On a botch, so that's 6 or below, it doesn't connect and gain 1 momentum. And then on a 7 to 9, that's like almost like a mixed success. So we've got you have their attention, pick one of the following. So we get make the creative to book you in a match, add a stipulation to a relevant match. They come out to respond to your promo, or gain +1 heat with the subject of your promo. And then you 10 plus, you have connect with the audience and you pick 2 of those ones below. Nice, simple, straightforward. Oh, wow. You have your own moves as a creative. These are more like narrative approaches that you get to use at different times during the game, with harsher ones in response to failed moves made by players. These are more explained in the basics of being creative in a couple of pages' time, but generally the term make a move refers to players' moves. Make a hard move and make a soft move refer to creative moves. Absolutely. So the basic moves are the athletic feat, break kayfabe, cheap heat, cut a promo, play politics, the over move, run in, work the audience. We have 8 basic moves. And then particular wrestler moves are the wrestling move, work real stiff, interrupt, the comeback, tag team, and then match stipulation moves. I don't know what that is. Maybe, I guess that's maybe that's custom moves, or maybe that's something to do with the promo. We'll find that out in a second, I know. Oh, and there's an example as well. We'll go through from that. Alright. Basics of momentum. So everyone gets 1 momentum at the beginning, don't they? The momentum represents a wrestler's energy and intangible it factor. Every wrestler starts each episode with the momentum associated with their audience. Starting wrestlers will start with 1 momentum, as they all start with either +1 or +2 audience. A player can spend any amount of momentum to add a bonus equal to what they spend. Wait, hang on. Oh, yes. Add a bonus equal to what they spend to any die roll they just made. So yeah, if you spend 1 momentum, it would be a +1. I understand. They always spend momentum after seeing what they roll. So you don't spend it in advance, you just do it after. Some moves, notably the babyface and heel moves, maybe that's the this wrestling, maybe in here the wrestling moves perhaps. Demand that momentum be spent in addition to their narrative triggers. Ooh, nice. So in order to maybe do stronger moves, perhaps you might need to spend more momentum. I love it. This means the move cannot be made if you do not have the momentum for it. Momentum is also important for matches. In addition to helping out on the wrestling move, finishing moves are a flat 2d6 rolls with no associated stat. So saving momentum for this for use for your finisher is generally a good idea. Ooh, I like that. I like how that, your final move, it's just the look of the dice. I'm always a big fan of that. I can't remember which game it is I read recently. It was Orbital Blues. Your perception checks was just 2d6, and that was it in terms of what you in terms of perception. I like that. It was just like complete look that you'd see something. It was relying on I have like a +5 to perception. Momentum is a fluid resource, so a good technique is to track it with poker chips or another kind of physical token that can be physically moved around as momentum is gained, spent, and lost. Momentum comes from the results of some moves as well as botching some moves. Wrestlers learn from their defeats. Ooh, any momentum unspent at the end of an episode disappears. There is no reason to conserve it. Nice. Wow, that image. I would love, if it was some sort of poster with all these moves on that they've drawn, and just that you just put them up. When you see those fitness workout things, do 8 butterfly kicks and do 10 crunches and then do a set of these things. Same thing, but just with these moves. Also that you don't do them because that you'd be dangerous. We've got an example here of using momentum as a play example. And then the basics of an audience. So the goal of every wrestler is to get popular with the crowd who wants to see them again and again. More popularity means more bookings, better treatment from management, and hopefully more control over your own destiny. Each wrestler's audience score is represented by how popular they are. 2 main ways to increase audience are to win matches and to gain heat with other wrestlers. For the first episode, remind players that the thing they have most control over is gaining heat with their opponents. And every time they work a match with someone, they have a +4 heat with, they gain 1 audience. Ah, wait. Every time they work a match with someone they have +4 heat with, they gain 1 audience. Once you're at +4 audience, they're the 1 away from hitting the top spot, which earns them an advance, which can be used to raise their stats, gain new moves, and evolve their gimmick. It is rare to get to the top. It is rare to get to the top spot in 1 episode, but if someone does, take a look at the section covering gaining and losing audience. Nice. All right. So, in addition to pacing and playing NPWs, Creative uses creative moves, which are narrative approaches and triggers for new content rather than specific actions taken by individual characters. Creative moves are divided into soft and hard moves. Soft moves are things you say whenever the players look at you expectantly, waiting for you to move the action along. This is the thing I think we found out with God Killer a couple of days ago. They had very similar soft and hard moves, but it didn't necessarily define what the soft and hard moves was easily, like, for us to know. Like, I know that a hard move is probably like giving damage to someone. If they fail and I give damage to them, that's probably going to be a hard move. But that's a move I wouldn't do all the time. That's a bit, there's a punishment almost. Soft moves are supposed to be like, here's something bad that could happen, but you have a chance to get out of the way. It's just a way to move the story along. But that's how I interpret it anyway. So for example for this, we've got soft moves such as put a microphone in their face. It could be a scheduled interview, a rival's interruption, a hard question, an accusation of wrongdoing. Take the next step for a storyline. This is as your dramatic sense dictates. Book them into a match. They could be challenged by an inferior, scheduled into one to fill time, or handed one as a reward or punishment. Put something they want at risk. Take a look at their sheet to see what their current want is and put an obstacle in the way of getting it. Announce kayfabe badness. There is something unwanted that happens as part of their storyline. A bad individual is underhanded and a good guy makes a mistake. Management punishes someone unfairly, and something important is lost. Swerve the storyline. This is always going to be contextual to the moment, but do something unexpected. Improvise. Bring in something on deck. You won't have anything on deck for the first episode, but see something. Oh, see this page in between sessions. Oh, I wonder what that is. That's quite exciting. Ooh. Along with your plan of segments and matches, you should use this list of soft moves to add segments and bring in more antagonists. If you have no idea what to do next, make a soft move. Nice. Oh, I'm sure it will have like a reference sheet later with soft and hard moves on. Yeah, I like that. We've got 7. 7's the magic number, isn't it? We've got another play example, presumably of a soft move. Okay, so hard moves are things you say when players botch by rolling 6 or lower, so after they actually fail. Okay, and position themselves in such that they're really just asking for it. So we have hard moves, so turning the audience on them. Explain how what they did brings them low in the sight of their fans, and they lose -1 audience. Turn an NPW on them. Explain how what they did offends, hurts, or enrages their peer, and lose -1 heat with character. Great backstage intrigue. This is something unwanted that happens off camera but might spill over into their storylines. A dastardly plot, a sudden betrayal, an unfortunate affair. Oh, classic. A poor decision revealed, a vile rumor, a bad mistake. You're gonna tag yourself. 100% I am a poor decision revealed. Announce legit badness. There is something legitimately bad about that happens to the character off camera or on. Someone is injured. Someone is in trouble. Someone has disappeared. Something important is broken. Something important is missing. These can simultaneously impact storylines as well. Hire or fire someone important. This is going to be an NPW. You can't fire player wrestlers unless they're at 0 audience. Ooh. Hire someone they hate. Fire someone they love. Push an NPW ahead of them. Explain how they're losing a spot and why they're being passed over because of their failure. And finally, steal their victory, preferably via their worst enemy. I love it. Many of the gimmick moves have an on a botch result, which is the prime result of missing the role. If a move does not have a specific botch result, then it is up to you what the fallout of a botch roll is. Botches never stop the action in its tracks. Rather, botches reveal or enhance a wrestler's weakness in the eyes of management, or are a physical weaknesses that lead to injuries, recrimination, and backstage disapproval. The show must go on, though every error go on through every error. It's just that things get more complicated. A botch is never a failure. It is a springboard to make a storyline more personal and impactful on a wrestler's legit life and career. It's also a learning opportunity. Many moves give the wrestlers a momentum on a botch, reflecting how they can learn from something from their mistake and turn that into a better result next time. I've got another example, again, presumably of the hard move here, using the same feuds. Nice. Okay, so the basics now. We've gone through all this. We've done about 30 pages. We're now going to wrestling. The wrestling matches are their own kind of conversation. So they have their own moves. The in-ring moves specify who has narrative control and track how well the match is going. Whoever has narrative control, or for brevity's sake, just control, of the match narrates a sequence of transitional or wrestling maneuvers, culminating in a big spot meant to impress the imaginary viewing audience. The result of the wrestling move gives the players choices about how the big spot goes, which may include transitioning control to their opponent. Creative decides who starts control based on what's appropriate to the situation at hand and narrates the basic setup before handing narration over to that player. Once the match starts, the player with control narrates the beginning portion, builds up to the big spot, and then makes a wrestling move. You'll see that the wrestling move asks the players to pick which stat they're rolling on. There's no right or wrong answer. Oh, interesting. Okay. If they narrate a maneuver that's obviously one thing or another, just roll the obvious one. If in doubt, they should play to their strengths and roll their highest stat. In addition, basic moves such as work the audience or performing an athletic feat may be used in the ring if they're narrated into it. If the match is between a player's wrestler and an NPW, you never roll for the NPW. You take up the narration when the player passes it, and you pass it back when you want to, or when the player uses the interrupt move to take it back. Oh, nice. If the match is between a player's... Oh, I've just said that way. Wrestling matches tell little stories of their own, with a beginning, middle, and end. Use the 1, 2, 3 to help build structure matches for calling in for the free beat pace to build up to each of the rolls of the dice. But the setup, their reaction, make the big move. Nice. Okay. So whilst your wrestler may do 3 or 4 moves in a row whilst they have control, it's just the last one you roll for with the wrestling move. Oh, nice. Yes. Oh, this is really cool. It's like almost like a little ritual. Okay, so narrate the setup move or your initial attack and pick up the first dice. Ask for your opponent's response. Then narrate your reaction to their response, a transitional move or a crowd-pleasing stunt, and pick up the second dice. Ask for your opponent's response. Then narrate your big showcase spot and roll the dice for the wrestling move. That is really cool. I love that. It's almost like you're picking up you're picking up this, like, the dice as a physical thing, and you just show them, and it's just like, oh yeah, that's really cool. I 100% would do that online as well. Yeah, you just do it with the dice, and you just sort of, again, if you're doing it to an audience or an actual play stuff, having that, like, saying it like a back and forth conversation, it just feels like almost, yeah, it is like a ritual. It feels very much like in Die when you open the space and everyone has their dice. Yeah, that's really cool. I love anything like that feels tactile and it feels like really in the moment. It feels almost, it's like dramaturgy, right? It feels very dramatic. Love that. Really love that. Not everyone wants or needs a specific structure. It's a good place to start. No, everyone does this. I've decided. It's the creator's call when the match ends. Though sometimes a wrestler will force the end of a match with a move. When you're ready, announce who's booked to win the match. This is a wrestler that everyone in the match knows is supposed to win. Several moves have the potential to change this by giving a player a choice of booking the match. When a player makes one of these moves, the outcome they narrate becomes the finish instead of what you had planned. It's your job to take these changes and roll them into an ongoing storyline, as though the new finish was planned all along. You can reveal the book winner at any time during the match, depending on the mystery depending on the mystery you'd want to preserve, or the necessity for the players to know in order to build up to the end. Once the winner is revealed, whoever is in control pushes towards a position from which they can take the victory. Then the winner makes their finishing move from their gimmick sheet and uses the results to narrate the end of the match. Amazing. So, the announcer. When the match starts, you pick a player whose wrestler isn't involved to be the announcer. The announcer does colour commentary, recapping the action and adding their own editorials. Most importantly, the announcer can put over each player's wrestler in the match in order to make them look awesome. To do this, they describe what the wrestler is doing in the most impressive light to the imaginary viewing audience. The announcer can put over each player's wrestler once per match. The effect, I'll read it out, shall I? The announcer move. So, after a wrestler in a match rolls the dice for a move, recap what a wrestler did in the most glowing light, including covering up or explaining away an error or a botch. Ooh, bump their die roll up to the next result level, from a botch to a partial hit, or from a partial hit to a full hit. You can use this move on each wrestler once per match. If your wrestler enters the match past the announcer's roll onto another player. Very cool. Love that. So we bump up that success level. And so the announcer should wait to see the roll result before deciding whether to put over the wrestler. Though obviously they're going to free to describe their amazing technique without applying the mechanical benefits. Right. At the end of the match, the announcer goes back to playing their regular wrestler. Creative can serve as colour commentary, but does not have the ability to put over wrestlers. If every player is in the match, there is no announcer. If more than one player is free, they all participate in the commentary, but only one of them is the announcer with the put over move. Right, yeah. Some groups create individual commentators with names and personalities. Some play their wrestlers as temporary announcers, and some leave the commentary team as anonymous talking heads. Oh, that's a very cool idea. If a player is having trouble getting into the announcer role, you should mention the different ways to approach it so that they can find one that's most comfortable for them. And then another example about announcing and stipulation move. Okay. Move through that. Ooh, that's a long one. Okay. And pacing a show. As a general rule, be basic and obvious for your first episode. Everyone's getting used to their characters and the rules of the game during this session. Save the weird stuff for later. Keep things simple and make sure to give each wrestler an opportunity to cut a promo before their matches. Help guide the match narration as appropriate. Cut right to the next vignette, next vignette and promo you have planned after each match, unless something comes up. Roll with the serves and be inspired by your players' contributions. To model how wrestling works for players who might have not watched a lot of wrestling, you can book a player versus NPW match early. Talk that player through their options and point out the moments in the match you think are cool. If you have an even number of players, a tag team match between baby faces and heels is a good, high-energy way to end an episode and tends to spawn future feuds. Ah, that's so cool. I love that. If the players have segments they want to see, you should be responsive to what they want to do. Work requests into your show and always respect their ability to advance their agendas via their moves. Many moves allow them to book matches or segments of their own, so either just replace what you had in mind or slot it into place that makes sense. That said, the first episode is the most creative-driven episode of the season, simply because the players haven't had time to get their heads around their wrestlers yet. Have fun with it, get into the dramatic action and make obvious choices, and enjoy what everyone brings to the table to make a great wrestling show. That is so cool. I'm so excited. And then we've got another play example, and then we've got the big quick start. Oh, so it's like an actual script. So this is a condensed walkthrough about how to get the first episode going and think about the initial booking. We won't read this out completely, but I could read this script to people if I was going to do it. That's pretty good. Yeah, it's just an actual script to do it. Amazing. It's so necessary as a GM. Like I know I've always talked about the Gauntlet and Jason Cordova and his writing and stuff. He writes out scripts for like Brindlewood Bay. Like here's the first session, here's this future sessions, and here's the structure and stuff. This is great. So yeah, just going over that like as scribing stuff. Also, I'm not so sure about the stars as bullet points. I'll be honest. I would also suggest, because you've got this in bold here at the top, right? And then it goes, read or summarize the following. I think this, you need to indicate that this is a script as well. Maybe have it as a box or something. Like, hey, talk about this, because you're describing like, okay, here are the gimmicks. So I'm going to go through them all now. So your body is this, your look is this, real is this, work is this, etc. Introduce the wrestlers. Last week on Worldwide Wrestling, book the show. Take a 10-minute break to book the episode. Interesting. Oh, and it gives you some advice on. Oh, here we go. So if we had 6 or more wrestlers, I'll zoom in a little bit. We had 6 more wrestlers. Start with single matches between a babyface and a heel, then tag team matches putting the other 4 wrestlers on opposite teams. Then use one of the big matches like Battle Royale or Regal Wrangle to play out a match with the whole roster. That does sound pretty fun. That sounds really fun. Yeah. So I like that it's already giving you examples of how to like really structure what we're looking for. Really cool. And starting the episode during play gives examples of like of the kinds of scripts we'll go through. Yeah, nice. And during play. Oh, you've almost got like a Q&A at the back. So what if everyone is looking at me and I don't know what to say? What if a player botches and the moves don't say what happened? What if somebody gets injured? What if someone gets an advance? I love that. It's like almost like a frequently asked questions thing. That's great. Wonderful. What if someone does something that feels like we should roll dice, but it doesn't seem like it's covered by a move? Probably covered by a heel or babyface move instead. Ah. Alright, and then you got making the roster, which goes into a bit more detail about stuff. What I'm going to do, because we're coming up to time a little bit, but we've covered that first quick start, which I'm very excited about. I think what I will do, I can easily see right now, like in these gimmicks, he's got each of the gimmicks in alphabetical order, which is great. And it tells you like, if you want to play the gimmick, if you want to do this, if you want to be the star, if you want to have this, that's really cool. I like it having like, and it tells you where you can find out more information about it. Oh, that's so good. A really accessible book. Nice. I like the little images. I like the images as well. It really gives that cool character. If I go through these, it's giving a quick summary of each of the 15 gimmicks that we have. And then it breaks down the gimmicks by section. So it goes from like how they're making their way to the ring, which is like bits of information about like details like their name, visual representation. Let me zoom in a little bit, sorry. Visual representation, hailing from, so what their hometown is, entrance, so what their music is, perhaps, to describe it, what their stats are, the role, whether they're babyface or heel, their wants, how much heat they have at the beginning, and the momentum. Then they've got their moves, the injury, audience, advancement. So that's what it splits down the whole gimmick sort of playbook into. And then you have a bit of a description on it there. Let's have a quick look at this one, the hardcore. It's going to be... Oh, interesting. We're not seeing... Oh. Whoa, okay, that's fast. That's interesting. Sometimes when you have these books, if you zoom in too far, that the image gets pixelated, so that they've used an image of an image. Looks like they've taken this from the actual like file and put it in, because the text isn't like blurry or anything like that. Look at that. I've zoomed in. Like the image here, obviously, is a little bit blurry, sure, but here it is not, which is great. Let's have a look at this, the hardcore gimmick. So we've got, you're not the best in the ring, or the best looking, but you know how to get a pop through naked aggression and rampant bloodshed. Some in the business look down on you, but you're a legend in the making for your die-hard fans. How long can that fact be ignored? We've got the making their way to the ring, so that's that information about like what their name is, what they look like, where they hail from, their entrance, like again, this is what you can put your music from. You can put your stats, so that's almost like the quick stats thing there. You put oh wow, so 0, 0, and -1, -1, and then add a +1 to the stat of your choice. And then here you got your roles. So if you're a baby haste, you're a hero, and then a villain, you're a heel. And you got your 4 questions here for the heat. You got your wants and who you have heat with. Amazing. And then you got your moves on the back of that gimmick as well. So here you've got your finishing move. Pick 1 as well. Oh, is that? Oh, I guess you can take that. You can take that move now, and then advancements come later. This looks a really good design sheet. I really much appreciate it. Injury. Nice. Okay. It's cool. We've got an example. Oh, I understand now why it's slightly bigger. It's because it's a full page. I was like, oh god, it's so not pixelated. It's because they've used the full page. You know. Foolish. Alright, a little bit more information about it, like the roll. Got some advanced rolls there as well. Ooh. Alright. Moving on. Again, this is just going to a lot of detail in this chapter 3 about like all the different moves and stuff like that, which we can go into another time perhaps. Again, I'm just very aware of here's how you do to change gimmicks, which you'd probably do through advancements, I can see there. Moves, here we go. So, a quick look here. So the full text of the moves is provided in the reference section, at page 200. Fair enough. So we have all wrestlers will move basic moves, which cover the building blocks for every wrestling show, and the in-ring moves, which will cover the wrestling matches. Each wrestling has their own gimmick move from the gimmick sheets. Only creators will use their creative. Fine. And then, depending on the game, you may also end up using match stipulations, which structure different wrestling matches. There's the audience moves, which might be different crowds you have to perform in front of on any given night. Those road moves, so those in between those matches moves. And then custom ones, which you can make as well. So, and we've talked about it before. Again, we won't go into too much detail, but like to make a move, you have to realize that you've triggered the move, that little bit of text. And you can do it either by naturally just talking about it and go, oh, I've triggered a move, or you be like, I want to trigger this move, and this is how I do it. And usually it is rolled plus 2d6 plus a stat that's indicated. And then you have the tiers of success. So you have a botch, which is 6 or below, a partial hit, which is 7 to 9, and then a strong, which is 10 or above. So that's that, really. Yeah, pretty straightforward. Again, very much like any Powered by the Apocalypse game. All right. And yeah, and then they go into a proper like anatomy of the move. So we've covered this a little bit when I read it through before. So that's cool there. And it was said before, like, how often do you make moves? It kind of depends. You shouldn't be asking for moves. It is definitely about that conversation. I think if you're a player that's new to Powered by the Apocalypse, it's always better to say like, hey, I want to do this move. I'm not sure how I do it. I'd rather do that, but rather than asking for moves, like, can I see them? Can I make a perception check? You know, that sort of thing. I think that's it. That's kind of all I want to go into. Whoa, look at that image. Holy shit. That's amazing. Yeah, tag yourself. That's me not seeing the consequences of my actions going through. And then parts about the actual wrestling. Again, these go on to much detailed play on that. So let's go back to the. Just going to check the table of contents there. So yeah, so I think overall, yeah, we've done this first section about like an intro to what Worldwide Wrestling is. I'm doing the first episode, and I'm very excited. I'm very keen to read more of this. Maybe I'll download it onto the iPad and try and read it over the weekend when I get breaks between bits of work. I really like it. I love the idea of doing the different roles, and I think it's so straightforward. And it can mean you can be very creative. I am very curious to be about these promotions as well. Maybe I should go and look at that very quickly. Let's go look at the promotions very quickly, because I want to see what those actually are. Like I said, I think I have an idea what they are. Yes, it is. It's about the style of it. So yeah, the default promotional style for Worldwide Wrestling is that of a modern televised weekly show. But the rules are are agnostic as to the details. As long as there's an audience, you can play a game as a glorified backyard fed, an old school territory, a stationary indie promotion, any combination you want. Does your show travel from city to city, or does it have a single home arena? Does it have pay-per-view supercards every month? a couple times a year, or not at all? Are there weight classes, style based on splits or other roster divisions? Nice. And when starting new seasons, the player's wrestlers should start out in the middle of your rosters and not already at the top or all the way down the bottom, so they can move up and down the card as they develop. That means nobody begins your first episode holding the championship. Start off with that mountain to climb. Ah, I see. There we go with the... Alright, well, I wanted to see, though, can it give us a couple of examples? On living promotions. Here, what does it say? Living promotions. If you want to explore the world around the wrestlers, grows and changes with them, you can make a living promotion. They have their own versions of stats and gain advances that expand on the options available to the creative as the promotion develops. Ooh, how interesting. Also opens up the ability of the wrestlers to establish themselves as invaluable specialists on the roster and become truly legendary figures during the mythic moments. Okay. So we have to talk about... To start a new living promotion, you need to decide on the reach it has, pick the starting supports it defines, and the struggles that challenge it. The reach we have goes all the way from local to international. Okay, that's pretty cool. And these can go up and down the scale. Supports and struggles. The supports are simple descriptors of things that hold up your company, help it make it unique, or give it a particular niche or appeal. Struggles are elements that hold you back or logistical challenges to growth or integrity. Pick 2 of each for each new promotion. If they are seemingly contradictory, describe how they coexist. Ah, here we go. So we have stuff for supports. We have like a devoted... Sorry, I'll zoom in a little bit so people can see. We have a devoted following, a mainstream appeal, cable TV deal, strong kayfabe, unbroken title link, in depth. We have here on struggles, or facility maintenance. Oh, so you really could have that that glow aesthetic of like having a really cool like strong kayfabe or theatrical representation, but the place where you're traveling around to, they're very the places are pretty bad. Like they're poor facility maintenances. You're in school gymnasiums and stuff. I do like the idea of having a devoted following and then a hostile fan base. And what's it there at the bottom? It says theatrical pretensions or pretensions. Oh, okay. They use supports and struggles to make principal decisions about storylines. They serve as context in which to make hard moves, to bring pressure to bear witness on wrestlers who cross management. Add the following to your list, so remove a support and add a struggle to your hard moves. Okay, that's quite cool. Ooh, look at that. Cheers. Whoa. Alright, we've now gone into math mode. Hey, that's cool. That's very cool. Oh, tiers effect. So there you go. That's the thing. If you're in different tiers, you can... Ah, there you go. You can unlock certain things depending on what tier you're in. So if you had 8 wrestlers and so on. Right. Yes. A bit too much for this particular stream, perhaps, but how cool is that? Like, this person's really thought, like, NDP's design. Nathan's really looked into this. It's brilliant. And yeah, you've got effects of it. Very cool. Alright, let's, Oh, we've got some random we've got some random tables. I love random tables. Good dance partner there. I can see that in reputation. That's really excellent. Making random wrestlers. Okay. Ah. Right. And the custom moves are there. Going beyond the road. Alright, cool. We'll leave it there for now. I'm just going to check back. Anything else I wanted to just quickly look. I want to see. I guess here are the promotions here, aren't they? Let's go. Which one should we go for? Which one should we look at? Was there a regal one? Let's go for the ninth circle of wrestling. So 9 CW. That's page 1. Ooh, 1. Oh gosh, I can't even. 192. Ah, see? Ah, so someone has created this. Osmina. You probably haven't heard of the Knives Circle of Wrestling. If you have, you either scoff at the ludicrous concepts or over the top characters, or embrace them for those very same reasons. 9CW delights in the bizarre and the fantastical. Gorgons and knights and sorceresses all clash in the ring in a promotion run by the devil herself. I love it. Yeah, and you got the reach is local. We've got 2 supports here of motivated roster and strong kayfabe, but the struggles it brings is a niche fan base and convoluted lore. Incredible. That's awesome. The audience may be small and a streaming channel is obscure, but the enthusiastic roster throw themselves into their roles, creating a significant part of 9CW's charm. That said, the uninitiated are generally not advised to try and untangle the histories of these characters, at least not without their own Virgil to guide them. And we've got championships, we've got types of characters we can see. Oh, we've got a little bit of like Crowley as the head booker. Always seen with a case filled with grimoires. In kayfabe, it is a summoning rituals that pulls figures from a variety of mythologies into squared circles. So you could have like a proper Mortal Kombat-esque type promotion. That's cool. The duo of Morgan and Mordred claimed the Rubedos from its previous owners quite handily, although not without their usual dash of extra legal tactics. Even when not cheating, Morgan's technical prowess and Mordred's blend of power and agility makes them dangerous to face on. And each of these promotions seems to be like, what, just a page? Yeah, they're just a page. I can see they're what the fuck wrestling. How cool is that? Oh, I love it. Oh wow. I genuinely didn't know what to expect when I was reading through when we had the random roll. And now I'm super pumped to actually maybe pitch this to one of yours. Well, there you go. That is Worldwide Wrestling 2nd Edition. So let's recap. So this is a Powered by the Apocalypse RPG system that is inspired by wrestling in all kinds of forms. It is powered by the Apocalypse, so it's just 2d6 plus a stat. Character creation was in 7 steps, easily enough, very sort of collaborative. And some of the high points I really love about this is that we have terminology. Everything is entrenched in wrestling, but it's not overwhelming. There's some really good explanations about how it works and how and certain language that you can use as players to indicate stuff. I also really love the roles that you can get as a player. If you're not in a particular match happening just now, you are the announcer and you're adding stuff to the game, even if you're not directly engaging with it. I think that's such a really cool little mechanic, and it just means that everyone's involved with what's happening, and there's that idea of cheering for people. I can also imagine if you're doing this in person, maybe people are going to give some props. There's going to be that actual sort of audience. If you're doing it online, you can get bits of clips to show what you're meaning, like maybe some GIFs, etc., or just playing your music as you're coming into on a stream. I like how you can build it either for one session as a start-off one, then building it up to a full season between sort of 3 episodes and 12. I really like that. And you can have up to 8 players, not including the creative. Could be quite tricky to do, but I like that idea. That means that people can just drop in at any point as guest spots. It sounds like there's some really cool things to have off-screen moments and stuff, which could then influence what's happening on screen. And these living promotion stuff, the idea of making like the scenario as big a part as the characters and giving it like a theme night, really cool. Those are the things that stand out to me. In terms of cons, it's very hard to pick any, I'll be honest. I guess if you're not into role-playing big characters, maybe this isn't the game for you. But it does give you the opportunity to, maybe if you want to try to do some narration, if you want to try to be the GM in something, this gives you that moment for that. So that's a pro, isn't it? Another con perhaps is that I do wish the links, it was like a backlink on this particular version. It seemed to be like it's not linked to like certain chapters. But then a pro in its favor is that it is color coded. It goes, if you want to read these chapters first for a basic intro, do that. Here's some more detailed rule explanation. Here's some optional rules. Here's some inspirational essays. I think the artwork's really good, very evocative, but without being too serious. Like those sort of drawings were using dummies, not showing actual violence. I think is good. it feels as well that this particular game could be one with all the family, not just for a specific audience. That you can really change the tone. Its talk of safety tools is really, really good as well. The only thing I might add is what's I was going to say about safety tools then. Safety tools I think maybe should have been at the top a little bit, but I understand with the way they structured the book why they've had it where they did. I think as well I would have liked to see what was I going to say? I was going to say something else. The play examples, from briefly looking at them, I think they worked really well. Like I said, the imagery looks really good. The tone, the style of the writing, very conversational, very involving. I like the naming of things. So like wrestlers, non-player wrestlers, creative. I guess my only stipulation was is it the creative? I guess not. Obviously, it's like creative. They booked this. I guess it's very difficult if you're going to do this in third person, perhaps. But all these things, they're also nitty gritty, and I think with the structure of where it is, it feels so open. So it feels like a lot of it. So maybe, perhaps, if it just had that cool rulebook and then anything additional, like those living promotions, like the gimmick stuff, having them as a separate PDF. But I understand again why they put it all together so that you don't, if you only have one book, you have it all in there as well. From what I saw, I don't know if the gimmick PDFs, if they're form fillable. It talked a little bit about online play, but not necessarily like, hey, how would you track or introduce people? So that's where I'm talking about like form fillable stuff and maybe having like a tracker keeper, like using Google Sheets. There didn't seem to be, I guess if I actually didn't check, did I? There's no alt text on the book as well. But again, this came out 4 years ago, and I think this is still my first version of it. But overall, I've been really impressed with it. I'm actually really excited. It's given me lots of ideas about like if I was going to run this as a stream, how would I do it? And it's given me a beautiful structure for it. And it had scripts as well to introduce to players how to play and stuff for people who maybe have no idea about wrestling, who have no idea about that. But it does. I will say it does not feel like your first RPG. It definitely feels like maybe your second Powered by the Apocalypse game, or if you're really, really keen on wrestling and you're willing just to give it a go. It doesn't feel like there's a bit of hand holding, but honestly, I don't know. I think if this was my first game, I might be a bit overwhelmed by everything. I also think from my own experience of looking at the first edition compared to the second edition seems so much more clearer in terms of like layout, better images, I think as well. And it reads a lot better. I think I'm just repeating myself at this point, but there you go. So that was a quick run through of Worldwide Wrestling 2nd Edition by Nathan D. Paletta. And there you can grab it. You can grab it on ndpdesign.com. You've got it on DriveThruRPG. You've got it on itch. What I would say is that if you have financial hardship just now, if you go over to the itch, you can get this version for $7. Or if you've got the first edition, you can get it for $7. But the normal price is $15, which I don't think is too much either. But obviously, each their own on that front. I think it's well worth your while investing in it. I think there's some really interesting mechanics in it. Like I said, the announcer stuff, like the momentum stuff as well. The idea of like gaining momentum to do that finishing move of 2d6 with no stat, and adding on to that and having that description stuff. Fantastic stuff. That's it, friends. Wow, look at that. Just over 2 hours. Not bad at all. Thank you so much for joining me for this evening. If you're like, Fiona, thank you so much. Fiona, thank you so much. Oh, no problem. Check out What Am I Rolling, which is a twice monthly tabletop RPG one-shot podcast where I run lots of different RPG systems. I really now want to run Worldwide Wrestling as a result. But recently we've had lots of interviews with game designers. There's going to be another one going out on Sunday, which I highly recommend you check out. And essentially, as well as sort of interviewing game designers, I run a lot of RPG systems and which tell lots of different stories. Because ultimately, there isn't one RPG that encapsulates for everyone. It's not every there's not one RPG for everyone. But if you're like, Fiona, there's only D&D. I'm like, well, okay. Well, we do have the DM's book club as well, where every week myself and my co-hosts, usually Hamilton, but sometimes a guest, we talk about some D&D lore and discuss how we can improve it and put it into our campaigns. So we read the books so that you don't have to. We've done loads of things. We recently did Monks. That came out yesterday. We went through all the subclasses. We do know that with the 50th year happening this year, everything's going to be outdated pretty quickly, but it was really fun because that's a class, for me, I don't really play. Actually thinking about it, taking some of those inspirations and some of the lore for that, putting it into Worldwide Wrestling, that could be quite fun. It could be really fun indeed. We've also done stuff like from published adventures to third-party content, just talking about the rules in general, how to customize like a magic item or a spell, all that sort of stuff. And the best part about DM's Book Club is that you can go and start anywhere. You do not have to start at the beginning. Just pick an episode and go whatever suits your fancy. That's the great thing about it. Same with What Am I Rolling? If you're like, I'm not so keen on this particular system, give it 2 episodes and another system comes through. That's the way I designed it, so that people can just drop in and drop out. There's absolutely no pressure to come along for the ride. Finally, well, penultimately, let's say, if you're like, Alan, you sound fun. I'm like, we are fun. We've got a Discord as well, so if you want to come and join that Discord and hang out with some cool people, I haven't been posting as much, I apologise, I've been very, very busy. If you want to come and chat about RPGs with us, recommend some RPGs that we can use for Too Long Didn't Read Tabletop RPGs, I would be very, very happy to see you there. And we also share pictures of food and pictures about your day and just check in. A nice little RPG community. And then the only other thing, which I always forget to talk about, and I can't remember if this is going to work now. Yes, it does. There's a dice code. I know. If you want 10% off your first order, or any order, sorry, at Tabletop Dominion, which is a UK company, use the promo code WAIR, W-A-I-R, and you get 10% off. Of course, I never had them to hand, but I got some beautiful dice off them. Use my own offer code. So if you want 10% off and you want some nice dice, I highly recommend checking them out as well. That's it. Whew. I am tired. I feel like I've wrestled my own way out of this book. I'm going to go and get changed. I'm going to go to a late night gym session. I'm that sort of person. I know. Thank you so much for watching this and checking out the VOD if it's later. Very much appreciate it. We will be back Sunday night. Quite late on Sunday night. This is where I put it up before we started and now I can't remember. Oh, something about Big Bad One's just come out. Oh, that's exciting. Sorry, I'm seeing my notifications going wild. Let's see. On Sunday at about 10 o'clock GMT, we're going to look at Campfire by Will Jobst. I've got the physical version. I'm like looking at it. I got you. I want to play it, and now I rolled randomly, and we've got the digital version as well. So we're going to look at that, and it's about telling spooky tales and using some physical coins as well. So I'm very excited to check that out. So that's Campfire on Sunday. In terms of anything else that's coming up, I can't think of anything. We've got a second part of Heart coming out next Friday, the 8th of March. If you want to watch the actual first part of it on Actual Play UK, that's now up on YouTube, so go check out that channel where I play a deep apiarist, spooky bee lady, which was a lot of fun. And Heart is great as well. We covered it on a Too Long Didn't Read stream a couple of months ago now, but it was really good fun. Anyway, enough chatting. Thank you so much, friends. We'll hopefully see you in a couple of days' time on Sunday for Campfire. And I'm going to find the end of stream button. I'm going to try and wave like this, like a loon. I'll see you next time. Bye!